Silver Shamrock. So what we got here today is the final episode in the Tarot Tips and Tricks, Tarot Mega Tricks, or whatever I called it. So what we got is all the trumps laid out. And now, while I don't have this whole schematic memorized, I did want to briefly run you through what I do remember. And this is about number magic and sacred geometry and number expansion and all such things. Now, when you talk about the expansion of number and what that would recommend, there's something very specific going on. And I learned all this stuff from years of studying tarot, and especially from C.C. Zane in his Egyptian tarot book, where he lays out the number expansion technique better than anyone. And it aligns with a lot of the lessons. So I'm just going to do the best off the top of my head to give you some information. So the whole thing about, zero is the returning to the zero state, and it's nothing. It's omnidirectional potential. It's the potential of everything. You know what I mean? So zero is like the start of the sequence, right? But the first number is number one. And number one is and it's all about stages of evolution. Okay. I also mentioned that. So, this is like the air, the reason it has the philosophical element air. It's sort of like when a thought comes into your head from the zero state, and you have that brain orgasm, and you're not paying attention to where you're going because you get that thought, and you're just about to walk off a cliff, no matter what. Little white doggy can't save you. So number one is the start of your journey. Number one is all things compacted into that first number one. It's the first step. This is the moment where you take stock of yourself. Someone at the right, what do you say? Back to the drawing board. That's what this picture means. It's like you got all your tools laid out. It's your first step, whatever. In magic, you keep moving forward. The next step, number two, stands for the yin yang, all that. And two harmonious opposites. That's why you got the Yakin and Boaz pillars. And she is like magic in its purest form, like all the mysteries in the most mysterious way. It's like the shining light of the mysteries. And, and the Golden Dawn, that one's the element of air. Philosophical Jewish element. That's why there's no earth represented in this. You got to remember, they're Jewish philosophical elements. Air, fire, and water are in these. So you got Mercury best describes that. The moon best describes that. And number three is the first standing structure. That's the pyramid. That's when you have two harmonious sides that unite into a third thing of action, right? Number four is the tetragrammaton. That is the four-letter name of God. And the number four is the rectangular cube or square. And that's the first structure, the first foundational structure. Of course, we get Aries is linked to that to show the fourth. Number five is the expansion, when you go from the cube into, or I'm sorry, the rectangle, because the cube would be like a three-dimensional object, I guess. So we're talking about the from the foundation to number five, and number five stands for the pentagram, and that is, of course, man in control of the elements as the microcosm. And number six, you expand to the macrocosm. And this is two trines interconnecting, and that's why it's the Star of David. It's the symbol of marriage. So it's like two people's, everything that was learned down here finally uniting. And also talking about evolution of soul. The idea comes from nowhere. The idea is solid. You take stock of what your yin yang of opposites are to make things move forward, and then you select your force. The force starts. The force becomes foundational, and this is the sort of law or governing thing over it. It's the governing of those laws, and this is when the lovers. That's why it's two people. And in this card, in the older decks, you'll have basically a guy with the woman who's pure and true, and another one that's like the floozy, one who represents indulgence in sex and hot night and isn't like really the real one for him. And that's why there's like an Cupid up there pointing the arrow at the floozy, saying "Tramp, get out of here." And he's got a fork in the road, and he has to make two choices. And that's when writer A.E. Waite decided, oh, I'm going to upgrade these cards and make them look like this instead. So this is one of his innovations upon the Marseille and the classic tarot that took away from that message. Because you got to understand, Mr. Waite, when Mr. Waite did these cards, he was very specific on what he wanted for the trumps. The suit cards were all selected by Pamela Coleman Smith. So this is the number 7 is basically when you have supposedly a firm foundation, the square plus a triangle. That's for the 4 and the 3. And then that's why it's like you have your firm foundation, but then you have your animating principle that you use. That's like your magical weapon upon the world, and that's why Eliphas Levi called this the flaming sword, because it is like your magical weapon that you ride into the world, your chariot. It's your voice, your vehicle. It's how you how you do your stuff and things. And the number 8 in a lot of decks, justice and strength are switched. They kind of mean the same thing. I think this dude, I get lost on. I don't have my not memorizing the code names. I'm pretty sure this one's Cancer though. That one's, I believe, to be Cancer. I can't remember this one. I feel like a fool. This one is Taurus in the Golden Dawn parlance. We can just avoid those. You can look those up yourself. I do know that this one is Leo, though. It's like a sun sign. So the whole point is number 8 is two cubes or two number 4s stacked on top of each other, like an infinity symbol made of 2 rectangles, both the founding structures. So it's like you and your mate with both of your magical weapons combined into a sense of unity. And that's why it's seen as a sense of justice, right? But it's also a thing of strength. And I'm going to explain why strength and justice, the terms, go blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that's your strength. So number 9 is like the end of this first sequence, because the number 0 starts 1 to 9, and like 9 in like martial arts in so many different ways. It's like 99.99999% is as far as you possibly can evolve. When you get to a perfect 100%, that's when we start this next thing. So the thing is that when it comes to the Kabbalah on a Jewish perspective, it's said that the hermit represents like adolescence looking to your deep future. But of course, this is like the wisdom that comes from learning all these lessons. It's just the magician on a higher arc, right? So when you talk about all this, it's like the sequence restarts itself with new number magic lessons. And I'm not super sub, but okay. So number 10, it's 1 0. When you do these Roman numerals, it's sort of like, one is takes you back if, see, like there's the 1 in front of it that makes it 14. So this is like a 0 with a 1 taking it back. So that's why the Wheel of Fortune, it's like the Fool on the higher arc. It resets the journey to a new calibration, right? And number 11, the reason that it gets strength a lot, or it can also be a sense of justice, what it is an extreme force. It's like all these lessons learned ejecting into a certain direction. It's when you take control of your own force and like your magical pushing forward. Like this first sequence is all about organization and getting it all together and figuring out the lessons. This is when you're pushing your force out into the world. And that's why the lesson of this card, number 12, is like you're on the hook for all your magical actions. You're the sum result of all your activity, like, you can hang yourself. And number 12 is a discordant number for some reason. Can't remember why, but it also hooks into the 12 kings of Edom, if I'm correct. There's like this whole biblical sort of tie in there. So number 13, I forget how that all goes, but of course, death is the changing nature. It's like Empress on a higher arc somehow, as far as number magic is concerned. So yeah, we all know what that means. Then, of course, to regenerate love, and this has a lot to do with alchemy and the processes of alchemy. Now, card number 15. 15 is the ultimate discordant number, and I forget why, but it has to do with sacred geometry and shit and shite. And yeah, so that's why it's like the number of black magic. It like throws a rock into the quiet lake of number magic for whatever reason. And this one is number 15 with an extra bit of force to it, and I forget how that all works together. Number 17 is when things clear up. Okay, so this stands for like pure black magic force, right? And pure evil, and that concept, you know, and that which is inhumane, all that shit. And this one's pure destructive force, or the intense force, you know. This is like dawning of a new day, and this stands for faith or hope. It also has alchemical messages to it, but it also supposedly stands for astrology in its purest form. Again, I don't remember the but this is this on a higher arc supposedly, so you can glean that message somehow from that. And it's interesting because when you two team them up, you get like the lovers, those are falling, this dude and this dude with his, you know what I mean? Like there's like this a lot of like things like they kind of like look similar, like there are similarities when you line them up. But yeah, so the moon, this stands for Pisces in the Golden Dawn Book T terminology. And, you know, it's all things that are moon-like, that have to do with the subconscious. And again, I forget all things. My shit's dying. And then these are like the finales. And I know that one's the Jewish fire philosophical element, and this stands for the Earth. Or Saturn, I'm sorry, stands for Saturn. Doesn't stand for the Earth. There's no Earth element. So Saturn, because this is when you have Malkut and then you go up to Yesod, this is the path. This is the first path that you follow up the tree, supposedly in classic Kabbalah. And then when it became Magic Kabbalah with a Q, they had it so that the Sephirot 8 and 7 and 8 connect down. And the old Lyrianic Kabbalah and shit, it's just Earth to the moon and then everything connecting to the moon. So, you know, take what you will. This is supposedly the most important path when you start your ascent. And then you follow it all back, deconstructing your steps until and you think of it backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards until you end up here. So this was your little tarot lesson for today. My phone's about to die. Thank you for stopping by the Dr. Zeero Xiron Free Magic Secret Show. I hope that helped just a little bit. I don't have all this memorized, but I wanted to make this anyway. Okay, later, kids.